Hello and welcome to episode 803 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I am one of the co-founders here at ETR. We're coming off of a team play the best plays kind of week. Yes, that's right. Geno Smith was our top salary adjusted quarterback play in projections on the week 9 slate, and he went nuts. Alvin Kamara, Chase Brown, Austin Eckler were our top salary adjusted plays at running back, all smashed. Mike Gesicki was easily, by a mile, the top value at tight end, turbo smash. Titans, the top value at defense, scored 11 points, just full-blown, pants all the way off, not around the ankles, pants all the way off, full 3.9 inches intercourse for hashtag team play the best plays on Sunday. I mean, my cash team on DraftKings scored 170 points, and it had both Chris Olave and Drake London, who left very early with injuries. I mean, absolutely insane. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Adam, everyone knows to play these guys. Cash is dumb. In the massive $25 single entry double up on DraftKings, Alvin Kamara was just 59% owned. Chase Brown, 73%. I mean, 27% of people decided Chase Brown, you know what? Every touch against the Raiders at home, I don't think so. Chris Olave, I thought, was a stone cold lock. He was only 60%. Mike Gesicki, 62%. Austin Eckler, 34% on the late news. Titans defense was only 7%. But anyways, cash is not my point. Hopefully you were on Twitter and saw the scores that Dink and Leone and a bunch of ETR subscribers had on Sunday. Leone won the Thunderdome and the Power Sweep. Dink continued to crush with a 95K day. Both of the teams that they won with were Geno Smith doubles, which they talked about on Establish the Millions Saturday morning. I wanted to focus on Leone's team here for a second. Geno Smith at 5%, Jackson Smith and Jigba at 7%, Tyler Lockett 5%, Cooper Kupp at 8%. So cheap pocket quarterback double stack with a low owned bring back. That's 4 out of the 9 spots on your roster. At the other 5 spots, all Leone did was just play the best plays. Kamara, Chase Brown, Eckler at running back, all 24% owned or more in tournaments. Gesicki 30% owned at tight end in tournaments, and Cardinals D at 14%. So what Leone did here is something I never, ever would have done 3, 4, 5 years ago. Never would have played Gesicki with 3 chalk running backs. Never would have played the 3 obvious running backs together. Honestly, probably wouldn't have even played 2 of them together because I was just like, I can't do this in tournaments. Can't just play all the chalk running backs together in tournaments. What I've learned, the biggest thing by far that I've learned from even just lightly using the Sims is that playing the best plays is good. It depends on the contest, of course. Depends on how the field size, payout structure. But the bottom line is that I was previously playing far too wild in tournaments. I mean, far too wild in tournaments for far too long. And just knowing that as I'm building, not even looking at the sim, just knowing as I'm building and getting ready to test stuff or whatever, knowing that I want to be playing the best plays, honestly, it's made a huge difference. I mean, my results in NFL DFS tournaments have gotten so much better from 2014 through 2019. I never really had a good score in tournaments. I was losing and just really focusing exclusively on cash. And then it started clicking that I need to play more good plays and rely on construction, correlation, leverage more. Started to click in 2020, had a positive ROI in NFL tournaments, had the big score in 2021, posted a 300% ROI that year in tournaments. 2022, 24% ROI. Last year, 2023, lost 10% in tournaments. So far this season, winning 22% in tournaments. And by the way, if you ever want to sort your data like this to examine it, I think it's pretty important if you're playing seriously. I'm using the bankroll tracker on the Solver. It's totally free if you just sign up for an account on Solver. Use the link on the subscribe tab on ETR. Anyway, I don't get too bogged down on this. You can go to the ETR Twitter to see the teams that Dink and Leone played, as well as some teams that subscribers played. Obviously, on a week-to-week basis, the best plays are going to fail a lot, right? Not every week are the best plays going to hit. This is the NFL. It's a 1-game sample. Things get crazy. And when they fail, these kind of teams will look dumb. But I think, at least for me, for my style, this is the way I want to be playing ideally, as long as I think that the best plays are really strong, as I did this week. As for the cash slate in week 9, 2 points I wanted to make. First, the Brian Robinson news just came out of nowhere. I mean, it's pretty rare that we get that surprising of news that impacts the slate that close to lock in the NFL these days. All the reports were that Brian Robinson was expected to play through his hamstring injury. So it was just tough process wise for me in cash. I like to look at all our top 10 optimals. I like to lock guys, exclude guys, compare ceiling, compare base. Obviously, I have the show, last minute live stream. So I wasn't really able to do any of that for the Austin Eckler stuff. It was a little bit of a wake up call for me that if I'm going to play big in cash, I need to have a more streamlined process for when late news happens and I only have 10 minutes or whatever. Because I did make a bunch of mistakes on FanDuel, which hurt. I had a Alvin Kamara team in. I got off that Alvin Kamara team to go down to Eckler, use that money to get up to CeeDee Lamb. That's just not right. It was not right on FanDuel. And I know a lot of people played that kind of team. It was, I think, absolutely have to play Alvin Kamara, even on FanDuel, even at that price, given the spot. I mean, so part of my process would have been locking Alvin Kamara and then looking at those optimals on FanDuel. I just didn't do it, I also went Calvin Ridley over Jacoby Myers on FanDuel, Commanders over Bengals defense, just bad. And I think I need to have just a better process for when late news hits for this if I'm going to be playing cash on both sites. Anyway, you can read more about the cash slate in the lineup review article, talk through not wanting to play both Dak and CeeDee Lamb together in cash. I know that was a hot topic. Feel pretty strongly I'm right on that one. Leone disagrees, but that has only made me more emboldened. And yeah, one thing to add about, the chalk and tournaments and stuff, I did not feel great about CeeDee Lamb on this slate as like turbo chalk. And so, there's a difference. I think it's hard for me to like explain because it's like so vibes based, but it is a difference for me on guys who I don't feel great about playing in cash, or I don't feel great at 30 or 40% versus something like Chase Brown or Alvin Kamara or something like that. Anyway, I buried the lead here. So for anyone who didn't see the news last week, the parent company of RotoGrinders decided to effectively shut it down. Not completely shut it down. I'm not sure what their exact plans are, but they fired a ton of DFS related people, front facing, behind the scenes, etc. And yeah, this one hit me pretty hard. I think for a few reasons. First, like a lot of people my age, RotoGrinders was kind of my introduction to DFS. I found the site in 2013, 2014. They had DFS content, live shows, message board, kind of similar to what 2+2 was for poker. I went to RotoGrinders all the time. I did some shows for them starting in 2015 or so, I think. I met Peter and Al through doing those shows. And, like when something like this happens, it's just, I kind of default to thinking about the butterfly effect. It's crazy. I mean, it's sad. DFS undoubtedly changed my life. And I think RotoGrinders had a lot to do with that. So that was just kind of depressing on a end of an era level. Second, I know a decent amount of the people who were adversely affected by RotoGrinders, by what RotoGrinders is going through. And it hit home for me because, we've contemplated a situation like this with ETR. Do we want to be part of something bigger? Do we want to be more ambitious? Do we want to try to become some huge company? The clear trade-off on that is it's fucking hard and it's risky to the core product. I mean, RotoGrinders was bought by Better Collective, one of the biggest affiliate companies in the world. This was a few years ago. They were bought by Better Collective. Better Collective was one of the most successful, biggest affiliate companies in the world. Anything that distracts us from our core product, which is projecting player performance at the highest level in the world, I worry that anything that distracts us from that is bad and could lead to our guys who I love so much, losing their job, which after watching the RG guys go through it last week, it's just so brutal and would kill me to see your baby get gutted, And I get that comes with the territory when you sell, it's no longer your baby. But man, I love all the people that work with us. I know a lot of the people think ETR is great because of me or Silva. That could not be further from the truth. Without all of the people behind the scenes or partly, in front of the camera or whatever, these people are way smarter than me. Without them, we'd be nothing. I'm just the guy that tells you about it. So right now, our fate is decided by how well we execute, you know, not some part of the big business that we don't know anything about. Like if someone else makes a bad bet and then me or my team has to pay for it, man, that's a fucking tough pill to swallow. So yeah, ETR is unlikely to ever become some huge company. We're never going to have fuck you money, but what I think we do have is credibility amongst people who actually know, credibility amongst people who value quality. And if we ever lose that, it's over. So our job is to make sure we have undivided focus on the reason people keep coming back to ETR each season. And if we do that, we'll be fine. So yeah, I don't know if any of this made sense. I'm far from any type of real businessman, but I'm just kind of learning as we go here. Shout out to RotoGrinders. Rest in peace. Always will have a soft spot for me. All right. Want to get to listener questions, but before I do, couple things. NBA is indeed in full swing. If you want to play DFS, you need our NBA in-season product. We do have weekly and monthly options available if you want to check that out. Also, NBA player props. If you want to bet those, that is weekly only. Please, please, please read the FAQ before signing up for that. If you do get that, you can see our full stat projections each night at 5 p.m. Eastern. For details on all of that, head to the NBA tab on establishtheRun.com. Also, if you want to use an optimizer for any sport, NFL, NBA, golf, anything, MMA, you need to add on the solver through the subscribe tab on ETR. We also have the Sims for NFL through the solver. Tons more if you click on those solver links on the subscribe tab on ETR. All right, enough is enough. It is time for everyone's favorite portion of the program, the listener questions. Question 1 from Ryan. He says, what is proper cell phone urinal etiquette? Recently in the airport or in stadiums, every guy I see taking a leak is on his phone. I think it's pretty gross. Yeah, it's been a long time since we discussed germ avoidance on this program. Thank you for bringing it back, Ryan. Certainly one of my favorite topics. For a long time on this solo pod, most of the questions I got were about germ avoidance from 2016 to 2019. And there's so much in skin to fur about germ avoidance too because of that. But then the pandemic hit and everyone was talking about germ avoidance seriously, and it wasn't funny anymore. But now we're back. So as for Ryan's question, for me, there is a very clear line that somehow few people understand. I am fine with my own germs. I'm fine with my own germs. It's other people's disgusting fluids and bodies I can't take. So I'm not sure I see the issue with looking at your phone while you're taking a leak with your hand on your cock. I mean, I'd much rather people do that than check their phone while I'm having lunch with them or check their phone while we're just hanging. So I'm not sure I follow your concern here, Ryan. Is it that his phone is getting urine splatter on it? I mean, listen, buddy, simple rule of life, you never touch another man's phone, ever, under any circumstance, unless you're wearing sterilized gloves, because we all know what's on someone's phone. It's the dirtiest thing on earth. So I don't care if he gets his urine on his phone. I'm never touching his phone anyways. Is the concern that while he's looking at his phone at the urinal, he might catch a glimpse of your manhood in a weakened state? Okay. I get that. It's not ideal, but whatever. It is what it is. Or is your concern that you don't like people touching their cock and then touching their phone? I know I've said this before, but I need to quote once again one of the great orators of our generation, Mr. Rick Ross, who once said, "My gun dirty, my brick clean, I'm riding dirty, my dick clean." And yes, I agree with Mr. Ross. Out of everything on my body, my dick is actually one of the most clean parts. So, no, I actually don't have a problem with the urinal move, Ryan. I'm sorry. Question 2 from Will. He says, what's your threshold / rule of thumb for trying to find causation for a phenomenon versus explaining it away as randomness? Thinking about the wide receiver injuries this year, at what point can we no longer say we were just unlucky? And Jim Bell also said, what the fuck is going on with all these wide receiver injuries? Yes, so I know what Will is saying here. I think it's lazy and weak minded to be like, every time we lose, oh, it was randomness. Oh, that was an outlier. Oh, well, sometimes you're going to lose a 60-40. That is like weak, even if it's true, like I hate thinking like that. But man, I mean, we lost Chris Olave this week. Drake London, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Keon Coleman all got banged up. And meanwhile, yet again, somehow, no running backs get hurt. So to answer Will's question, yeah, I'm sure we could look at this from a data perspective. We could find a baseline of an average number of injuries or games missed by position for the top 100 by ADP each year for the last 10 years. Compare that to what's happened this year. I don't think it'd be that hard. But I don't need a fucking model to tell me that we're getting skull fucked here. I mean, AJ Brown, Puka, Nico, Olave, Ayuk, Cup, Mike Evans, Godwin, Rashee Rice, Diggs, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, Rashid Shaheed have all missed significant time or are done for the season. Meanwhile, almost no running backs have been hurt. So I definitely understand what you're getting at, Will. You're suggesting that maybe it's not random, that maybe there's some reason the injury rate at wide receiver has been exponentially higher than running back this season. I'm open to hearing ideas. I honestly am. I know someone floated that because of all the cover two, more wide receivers are catching passes underneath in traffic and they're getting hit by bigger defenders. I mean, maybe. I don't really buy that, but it's at least the theory that is plausible. Beyond that, though, I really can't think of anything reasonable. My bet would still be on complete randomness and outlier for all these wide receiver injuries, which means it will be really interesting to see how the field plays it next year. It could be an incredible year for wide receiver values if people are afraid to take them. And if people are taking running backs like it's 2004 again, but we'll see. For now, I'm just mega tilted and I have like a no whining, no excuses, play like a champion policy. And I'm trying really fucking hard not to whine about the wide receiver situation this year. But yeah, it's hard. Question 3 from Ja Morant's head of PR says, what is the best way to handle election season? Personal goal Tuesday night is to watch / read zero news and find out who wins the next morning. Yeah, Ja Morant. We're recording this Tuesday morning of election day. I don't have a ton of thoughts on this, man. My only thought is that people just need to chill the fuck out. Like the laundry bro stuff is just completely out of control. Everyone hates each other on either side. All that matters is what color laundry you're wearing. I mean, I'm legit worried about mental health issues now for people whose team loses its election. And long term, I'm honestly worried about civil war. Like, I'm sure a lot of you saw this meathead in a Ravens jersey after the Ravens Commanders game. A few weeks ago, he's just like roaming the streets looking to punch random dudes wearing Commanders jersey in the face because he's a Ravens fan and he hates the Commanders. So he's just like walking around the street, just punching people in the face hard, like knocking them out because they were wearing Commanders jersey. I mean, it sounds insane, right? It's like it's not girls gone wild, it's laundry bros gone wild, but it happens dozens of times every week around the NFL. It is no different than politics. Oh, you're not on my team? I fucking hate you. You're an idiot. You're a horrible person. I mean, zoom out. That is a insane way to think and act. We just got to tone it down, all the hatred. And I know for a lot of us who are on Twitter a lot, and I'm sure on all social medias, it's just made all this stuff 1,000 times worse. I promise you, I promise social media is not real life. The political stuff that algorithm is feeding into our brains, it is not what's actually going on in real life. And I think if people can back away from the screen, understand that, we'll all be better off. But yeah, all I'm rooting for is just people to chill the fuck out, man. Question 4 from the Diplomat says, "Hi, Adam. I'd really like to learn more about game selection for tournaments. You've covered this, but I'm still curious to learn more. Also, your thoughts on not playing main slates and instead I play early and late due to the overwhelming options. Thank you." Yeah, so I think Diplomat isn't referring to the stuff I talk about in the game selection article on the site, the stuff about, single entry 3 max or being rate conscious or how to allocate $100 or whatever. I think it's looking for stuff beyond that. For me, I'm trying to understand the setups that are best for me. And I think Diplomat immediately identified one that's better for him. And I think for a lot of people, 12 game slates are hard, 13 game slates are hard. On those kind of slates, playing early only, playing late only, and really concentrate on that, I think is a great idea, you know? And for me, as I talked about on last week's solo, I think the looser the pricing is, the better my results are. On a lot of weeks, FanDuel is looser, aka more guys I think are mispriced, but not always. In week 9, this past week, DraftKings was much looser. I tried to play more there. But more importantly, Diplomat brings up a good point about different slates, etc. As I've talked about, anytime you don't get the huge prizes, the games are likely to be softer. Less people are focused on them. So you're not going to win $1 million playing early only or late only. And by the way, for early only and late only, we do have projections and projected ownership for those slates now. I'm also talking about tournaments that get posted late. Like DraftKings will run a $100 buy-in single entry spy. And if it fills early, they'll post another one. It'll be a smaller one. You can't win as much, but the second one is almost certainly softer than the first one. And there's a ton of other spots that you could go to find softer action. Tiers, play some off-brand site, snake drafts. All this stuff's going to be softer than main slate, full DFS. But of course, as always in life, there's trade-offs. The trade-off here is that the prizes are smaller in all the spots I described. But that's fine. Let's not be greedy. Greed and gambling is really tough way to do it. I think just seeking out plus EV spots is more important than chasing that $1 million or whatever, if you're doing it seriously. So hope that helps, Diplomat. But I think it's hard to give like a one size fits all answer because, yeah, like for you, playing smaller slates is better. For me, playing looser slates is better, So I don't know. Last question we're going to do today, question 5 from Jameson says, "We need your workout routine while on the health kick." Yeah, I've been getting a ton of health questions. Love it. I'm going to keep repeating this disclaimer every time I talk about this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trainer. I'm not an expert. I'm just a neurotic dude who has read some books about this stuff and done some of my own research, and that's it. I think workout depends on a few factors. First, what's your goal? My goal is to live as long as possible, like 90 plus years old, while being healthy physically and mentally the entire time. Being able to still do things that I like to do. That's it. That's my goal. For some people, their goal is to get jacked and pipe girls. Who knows? For others, it's to perform in sports. But for me, for my goals, I really think people overthink the workout/exercise stuff and it paralyzes them. My baseline, my whole goal is just do something active every day, period. Doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be logged in a spreadsheet, just get the fuck off your ass and do something every day. Now, that's easier said than done. What can you do every day and not be miserable? If your workout isn't sustainable, there's no point. For me, I truly hate running. Hate it. I hate stationary bike. I hate Stairmaster. I find that stuff incredibly mind-numbing, boring, painful. Trust me, there is no such thing as a runner's high. I ran a ton when I was training for that 1-mile race against Brandon Adams a few years ago. I hated every second of it. So I just don't do that stuff. I don't run. I don't go on a stationary bike. I don't do a Stairmaster because your workout can't be something that you dread. You'll never be able to sustain it. So when it's not NFL season, I try to play tennis for 60 to 90 minutes, play super hard 3 times a week. And when it's not NFL season also, I try to play basketball hard, 30 to 60 minutes 3 times a week. Because I fucking love those things, I don't dread it. It's the opposite. It's literally what I look forward to doing each day. When it is during NFL season, I might have 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes here or there. I'll try to get a quick lift in or do a quick plyometrics thing, box jumps, stuff like that. If I just have a little bit of time, and then try to cut out some time to play tennis or basketball, maybe once or twice a week. Also, so my advice is just to find something that gets your heart rate up and do it. Maybe that's joining a CrossFit class. Maybe that's going for a walk in the woods. It just depends where you're at fitness wise. But my advice is always do not get bogged down in the details. Just exercise every day. Don't be overweight, and you'll be in a better position health wise than a huge portion of our country. All right. That is going to do it for this week's solo pod. We'll be back later today after the trade deadline. We push these shows back. After the trade line, we'll be back with Daigle for waiver wire, and then later tonight with Silva for team-by-team analysis of Week 9. For in-season subscribers, first run of Week 10 projections will be out Wednesday night, and me, Silva, Wiggins will be on the show Friday night talking every player in every Week 10 game. For producer Luke, for Jerry, my one true love, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.
All good.